Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is hour number 3 of the Vegas Take. Glad you could join us, Sharp and Shapiro. Coming at you on a Wednesday. By the way, I do want to promote some of these wonderful guests we have tomorrow. Attorney Michael Avenatti will be joining us in studio. We are going to get on the line tomorrow, the Mooch himself. Anthony Scaramucci is going to be joining us tomorrow. Former presidential candidate and former governor John Kasich will also join us tomorrow.
Apparently, if Trump gets impeached and removed from office, John Kasich will be one of the main frontrunners in 2020 for the Republican Party for the president of the United
Where'd you hear that?
Who said that?
Is that just your opinion?
You know who said that?
No.
Michael Avenatti said that.
Oh.
I'll tell you,
Okay.
John Kasich, I respect a great deal. I always have respected him. He used to work at Fox News. I think people forget about that. He used to be an anchor on Fox. It's crazy, right? But I thought he did a pretty good job. The one thing I've always, and I talked about this earlier, there's two types of Republicans, right? There are the types of Republicans that are fair and can be honest and have a backbone. Doesn't mean I'm gonna always agree with them. John Kasich, make no mistake about it, he's one of those guys. He's called out the president's irresponsible behavior, but at the same time, he's a Republican, but I don't agree with all of his policies. But I think he's a very, very solid guy. He's a good man.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Stein, but you posted a picture on Twitter yesterday of all of our guests, and it looks to me like Scaramucci and Kasich are related. they look the exact same.
I'll tell you one question quickly. I'll tell you one question I'm going to ask the Mooch tomorrow that I've been dying to ask him. Mooch, you've been a friend of Donald Trump for decades. You've known this guy forever. Why did you wait this long to finally speak out against his behavior? Why did it take you this long to do it publicly? I believe you've been speaking negatively about him privately for a long time. Why did it take you this long to be public? So we will ask him that and much more. Michael Avenatti in studio tomorrow along with John Kasich. So that'll be a fun show. So I'll tell you, this is a story that came out that's not fun, and it's involving another NFL player and domestic violence. This is disgusting. We're talking about former Miami Dolphin player Mark Walton. So he's expected to be released from Broward County Jail today. His bond's set at $10,000. This is unbelievable. It's unreal. Apparently, allegedly, what they're saying is that he punched his pregnant girlfriend. Does it get any worse than that when it comes to domestic violence? You should never, ever put your hands on a woman. She is pregnant, and he punches her in the face. Now, this is a very troubling story if we just ended it right there. If we just ended it right there, I would say this guy, this piece of garbage, should never be allowed to play in the NFL ever again. He's worse than Floyd Mayweather. This guy is the worst, okay? But here's where it gets really strange. And this is where the Miami Dolphins are going to have to start answering some questions, right? Despite the off-field issues, the Dolphins still signed Walton shortly after a tryout in May and saw him turn into a capable starting NFL back, okay? He was elevated to Miami's starting running back job in Week 6. Remember, these things were going on before, and they could have done something about it, and they didn't. Walton had his sentence of 6 months probation on August 19th reduced to 3 weeks for his incidents that occurred in January, February, and March. He has a history. He was facing a felony charge for carrying a concealed weapon he owned and misdemeanor charges for marijuana possession, reckless driving, resisting a police officer on March 12th in Miami. He was also charged with misdemeanor battery for a fight that involved him taking a phone from a neighbor at his condo. This is a guy that is absolutely nuts. He's out of his tree, but the Dolphins said, you know what? Who cares? Let's sign him anyway. And now he punches his pregnant girlfriend. He's probably going to go to jail.
Well, it's crazy to me. How can the Dolphins sign Mark Walton, but considering how poor their quarterback's play has been for the last 5 years, not even take a look at Colin Kaepernick?
It's horrible.
That is odd to me.
Well, I don't want to get into I don't want to go in the weeds.
I just think that's very odd to me. Why sign a guy like this who clearly has almost as much in baggage as Antonio Brown, but despite the fact that your QB play has been horrendous for the last decade,
last I checked,
you can't even take a shot at Colin Kaepernick.
Last I checked, Mark Walton, one thing he didn't do is he wasn't wearing a Kunta Kinte shirt. He wasn't doing that.
Well, I think the heart of the issue here is how many chances should one get, right? And when you have somebody like this, as you laid out his background, we're not talking about one little incident. Okay, he was drunk driving one time, or he took a phone from somebody, or whatever. We're talking about a rap sheet, right? I mean, a rap sheet where it was very predictable, in my opinion, that something like this could happen. And the Dolphins took a chance on him anyway. And so you have to wonder, how important is it to win? And what you put that above this guy's criminal record and what he could do.
Well, apparently, it's not important for the Miami Dolphins.
Well, I mean, and the other thing I wonder is, how long would the NFL and the Miami Dolphins have sat on this if they could have kept it quiet? I mean, I immediately think of Ray Rice, who beat the crap out of his fiance in an elevator, and the NFL
and then
didn't say a word about it until the video came out.
Kareem Hunt, same thing.
Right, him too.
Kareem Hunt kicks that woman that he was partying with. And
listen, I'm going to sadly say this.
Video evidence changes perspective at the end, but it's in the NFL's best interest to keep this stuff under the table, at least for their bottom line.
Sadly,
morality, obviously, it's the morally incorrect thing to do. But the situation with Walton is interesting because he went to the University of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Mark Walton fans would presumably be Miami Dolphins fans. So I think they looked at that as well when they took a shot on him.
Sadly, I would say this about the NFL, and I would say this about many of these, not all of them, but many of these team owners, partial owners, you name it. If they had it their way, they would sweep this stuff under the rug because many of them, not all of them again, but many of them, all they care about is their bottom line and winning football games. They don't care about the spouses of the players. I think many of these people, even though they're going to tell you that they care about domestic violence and they take it very seriously, I'll tell you what they take more seriously, how much money they make, wins and losses. And this stuff needs to stop. We need to set an example. And if teams like the Miami Dolphins, if this is true, put some of this stuff underneath the rug and waited on it, they need to be punished for that.
I always thought, Jason, you know a lot about football. I mean, I always thought that it's real easy to cut somebody who's not a superstar, right? Like, now I don't know about this guy. He had a pretty decent season so far, but I mean, it's easier to cut someone who's not great,
he's
right?
had a couple of okay games.
Right. I mean, you get someone who's a superstar, it's harder to.
He's probably a third-rate running back. He's probably a top. I mean, let's say there's 150 running backs right now. Let's say there's 100 running backs. He's probably number 73.
And the team stinks anyway, right?
The
so
team
it's not like it's going to matter one way or the other.
Horrendously bad.
Right.
And one of the stories that I remember growing up, I was really young when this happened. I'm sure you remember Ray Caruth. Look, luckily, thank God, this guy didn't kill his girlfriend. But I remember the Ray Caruth story where killed his girlfriend, shoved her in a trunk, killed her, murdered her. Went to jail, I think, for 25, 30 years. I don't know if he's out. But it's bad. This is bad.
I think he's almost out. First-round draft pick out of Colorado. Played for the Panthers. Had a very, very athletic guy. That was very surprising.
And
he was a highly ranked guy. Mark Walton's not a highly ranked guy.
Well, whether they're highly ranked or not.
Well, I mean, it matters, though. Contractually wise, I mean, the expectation from the team, all that stuff matters. But Mark Walton wasn't. He was a need position, kind of, but I really don't understand how you can give a guy like Mark Walton a shot, but you can't give Colin Kaepernick a shot. I mean, I don't think Kaepernick is even I don't think he's a capable starting quarterback, but I think he could probably play a little
One guy's got a criminal record. One guy's just contriversial.
One guy's extremely controversial.
Right. But he didn't do anything.
I'll tell you why.
You're right.
Tell you why.
He is not a criminal.
I will tell you why. There's an easy answer to that because a lot of owners think that Colin Kaepernick is, quite frankly, sadly, a bigger risk. They might lose ticket sales. They might lose money. This is about money. Make no mistake about it. Yes, it's about making your football team better because that you would think that would equal money. But Colin Kaepernick is not a starting quarterback. So a lot of these owners are saying, and we're getting into Kaepernick. I really don't want to do that. But a lot of these owners are saying it's not worth the risk.
Or we could talk about the Raiders. The Raiders took a risk on Richie Incognito. Remember him? He took his father's head and brought like a samurai sword into
the average.
I mean, there a lot. He did a lot of very crazy things off the field. I think that at this point, Roger Goodell and the owners they need to make a conscious decision and create a huge fine for any team that does something like this moving forward.
But the average sports fan does not know the Richie Cognito story. The average sports fan knows why Colin Kaepernick is not playing in the NFL. That is a big distinction and a big difference. Obviously, Incognito, in my opinion, is a more valuable player on the field right now than Colin Kaepernick would be. Colin Kaepernick would not be starting. Make no mistake about it. Richie Incognito is a starting player in the NFL. Okay, we got to take a break.
Kaepernick might be starting for the 2-11 Dolphins. He might be.
Perhaps, at best. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, this is a bizarre one. I guess we're making some comparisons here. Now, we remember the story about longtime NHL commentator Don Cherry, his controversial statements. He was forced to resign. Well, now there's a longtime announcer of wrestling that is being forced to resign over his racist comments. We're going to kind of compare and contrast. We're going to play you the audio of both. What do you think is worse here? We'll take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.